Hello, everyone. My name is Cat Oriel with Forbes Breaking News, and today I'm here with Miss Ann Dunsmore, the campaign director of Rescue California. And thank you so much for joining me today.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Oh, of course. And so could you tell me a little bit about what is Rescue California, the organization, and why are you launching another recall attempt against Governor Gavin Newsom? I'm just curious about the timing, first of all, and also,
Sure.
yeah, why now? But will it get any traction and be pushed to the ballot box again, considering the first vote in 2021 wasn't successful?
Right. So that's a handful of questions. So the reason that, first of all, last time Rescue California was an auxiliary group. We supported the petitioners. There's a lot of laws around this. And so we ended up helping them. They were a very, very strong grassroots organization. And when they got into the big leagues of having to raise a lot of money, because it's very expensive to do, not all the time, and we'll talk about that too, but to have a statewide initiative. So I've been in the business for almost 50 years, almost all of that in California. And I've been involved in a lot of the big initiatives, especially those that have won over the years. And, that includes several recalls, most of which were successful. I saw in that organization, and that was really a citizens movement. And he never lived up to the promises that he won on last time. And so, of course, once you're involved in recalling somebody, you keep an eye on them. You stay in touch with the people you worked with. And it got fairly intolerable right at it appears to be a very good time. So first of all, the Rescue California's job now as the petitioner, whereas the volunteer organization has now come in as a support system to us. So we've kind of switched roles. Is that things kept getting massively worse. He would spend $15 billion on homelessness and move the needle backwards. He never resolved the issue with the EDD fraud on the COVID relief funds, which amounted to about 30 to 40 billion of unrecovered money. And that got buried in the budget. Even he referred to our existing budget as having to employ a lot of gimmicks. And it's still, if you believe his calculations, it's 38 billion. If you believe his own office of the legislative analyst, it was 68, then it moved to $73 billion in deficits, which is the highest number we've ever had in this state. I remember days when that was our budget. And then he insists on giving money away. And I think I started to sort of sit up about a year ago. Everybody knows that he has presidential aspirations. He's young, he's handsome, he's got, when he does handle a problem, whether you agree with it or not, he tends to be able to be very quick, like fixing a freeway in 2 weeks or cleaning up a city in 3 days, or none of it's sustainable. He's like, he is just checking off political boxes. So couple all of that, which is Gavin Newsom world, there's never one or two reasons, there's like 20, and it's hard to zero in on them. And we started seeing the list get bigger and bigger and bigger. So I think the real trigger was, on top of all of this debt, he was A, denying it, and B, continuing to foster initiatives that cost in the billions of dollars, like giving away healthcare to 700,000 immigrants, illegal immigrants, which is a $3 billion cost annually. Now he's talking about subsidizing housing for illegal immigrants who can't work, that are seniors. It's like, okay, we all want to be everything to everybody, but honey, we don't have the money is the bigger issue. We don't have the money. And so then on top of it all, he's pushing another initiative on the ballot, Prop 1. We all want to help our veterans. I spend most of my time helping veterans, especially those who are at risk for suicide. And he is using them almost like a human shield to get another $6.5 billion of bond indebtedness to do the same programs that $15 billion did it move the needle backwards. So at some point, when you start racking up the debt, the bookie kind of goes, hey, dude, we're going to kneecap you on this one. We're going to recall you, and we mean business. And you didn't take us seriously last time. Even Gavin Newsom is taking us seriously from day one. It took us 3 days, that's it, 2 really, to collect the 500 signatures we needed to even just file a notice of intent. And now we have 2,000, and Kat, you're hearing this here first, 2,000, and this is as of Thursday last week, 2,000 people who have gone to our website and signed up for over 50,000 petitions. Now, with 10 signatures on each petition, I'd say, and we're doing pre-orders. We're not waiting for grass to grow under our feet on this thing. You know, we filed a week ago. That's our progress. So there is a huge, don't ever ignore the governed. The governed, it's in our Declaration of Independence. The governors should never ignore the governed. And we are 100% very strong. Sorry, turned into a fire hydrant.
Oh, you're good. And I spoke to Larry Elder last week when the news broke about,
Sure.
Unit 10.
I saw that interview.
Yeah, and so, during the interview, he said that and of course, as you know, he was the top Republican candidate to replace Newsom back in 2021, but he said to me that he's unlikely to run again. So if not Elder, who would be your top pick to replace Newsom?
Well, we're not allowed by law to endorse any candidates. That's not within the limits of what we have registered to do. Our job is to pass the recall, get the recall on the ballot and pass it. Now, what we can do is give a big thumbs down to people. He and I talked after your interview. I called him and told him he did a great job, which he did. I mean, he's so articulate, but we discussed it. He was cornered last time and did not focus on the things that motivated the recall in the first place. Our petition language is very clear. We have a massive problem with illegal immigration, and instead of fixing it, instead of putting money into slowing the flow, he is actually using taxpayer funds to increase essentially illegal immigration over our border. We have a huge crisis in San Diego. It's really the timing has turned out to be great. He's below 50%. My guess is he's even below where he was a month ago when that PPIC poll was taken. He's vulnerable. And what we want to show people is anybody who has those kinds of policies or even waves that flag. And by the way, he's promoting policies all across the United States, limits on gun use, abortion. He's all over the place with these massive TV buys in presidential, battleground states. And he's raising money for candidates in other states. I get 2 or 3 of his emails a week, and he's spread too thin. He needs to come home, stay home, and focus on the problems that we have, because really, honestly, he's created them. I think he's the only one that can untangle them, but he's not going to do that. So what kind of candidates? If you want to know if you're qualified to be a candidate to run for governor, as question number 2 in this effort, read the petition. Stick to the points in the petition because it's what people care about. Secondly, work alongside the governed in getting this process done. Don't show up and surf the efforts of people who are putting this heart and soul into it over and over again. These are the people who vote. So they deserve at least for you to listen with your 2 ears, not talk with your one mouth.
So in another interview that you recently did, you said, we've got to do it again because Governor Newsom, he's a better governor when he's under a microscope. So I'm just curious from your perspective, since, we have 2021 to look at, if the recall isn't successful this time around as well, you think another goal of this is just letting Newsom know that we're watching you and holding you accountable? And to that effect, do you think that he actually at all, you've outlined all these issues. Is there anywhere where you can give him some credit? I asked this to Larry Elder as well. And do you think there's any point where you can say, okay, in the past, I guess 3 years now, he has actually improved and holding him accountable has worked?
Well, there's not a lot of things that he's improved on, and I already did give him credit for two things that were massive accomplishments. One was a little misdirected and checked a political box that none of us understand, but we know there's a price tag for it, and that's cleaning up San Francisco. The second thing is fixing the freeway quickly in I mean, a major part of our freeway system in Southern California, and he did it in record time. I haven't ever seen anybody do that. And I've worked for a lot of governors, not like that. Not that they, Northridge earthquake, I think Pete Wilson did a great job too. But no, and that's my problem. It's not like he doesn't understand how to do his job. He's just not doing it. And we've gone backwards in crime since he was reelected. We've gone backwards in homelessness. We've now at the bottom of the list on education, on how well educated our population is compared to other states. Our home prices outside of Hawaii are higher than anywhere in the country. Cost of living is higher than anywhere in the country. I think our homeless veteran population, or our homeless population, is 20 to 30% of the national homeless population. The veteran homeless population is indeed critical, but let me say this: Texas has the same number of homeless veterans. I mean, the same number of veterans, and they're like 1/10 of those are homeless. That's not the case here. We have a much higher, like very much higher percentage rate here in California of homeless veterans. What took you so long? Was it political motivation? Because the problem's been here for a while. So, I have a little problem with that, using the veteran population as sort of a human shield for your own political agenda. If you care about them, do something about it. We're the only state in the country that taxes military benefits, the only one. Do something about that. Do something if you want to help them. Finish the cemetery in Orange County. That was a beautiful, and he was part of it, and I'll give him credit for that. That was a beautiful, and still is, bipartisan, nonpartisan effort to do right by the legacy of the people who put their lives on the line for this country and their families that they left behind. Yet do more of that. That's what we want to see more of. But how are you going to know about that if you don't travel around the state? What's he doing traveling around the state right now? Promoting Prop 1. And you know what, Governor? I'm sorry. $6.5 billion for homelessness that's already failed. Let's call it what it is. And are you using debit cards? Really? That was the source of all the EDD fraud that we didn't manage. We haven't put the money into figuring out how to manage it. Figure it out. Don't make the same mistakes over and over again. Do not put pride before country.
Mhm. Well, so looking to the rest of 2024, there is still a lot of speculation that he could enter the presidential race, which he has denied. But, he is also still young. So if not this election cycle, it could happen down the line. So it also sounds like with your petition and your recall efforts, it sounds like you're also trying to just warn the country. Is that a fair assessment of
Well, I think that's our responsibility. I mean, that was where I kind of said, wait a minute, he isn't right. He's probably telling the truth. I'm not running for president. No, he's going to become president. There are plenty of opportunities in the process that we have in our country to wind up in the top spot. The vice president serves at the pleasure of the president. Now, there's been a lot of back and forth there, and the chatter, and people have always known Biden, Harris, and Newsom don't necessarily like each other, but there's a lot of groups and entities that come into play and help move that decision along to something more viable. Because clearly, a Biden Harris ticket does not work. So they're going to have to offset Biden sometime, give him a clean runway to move on. Maybe find Kamala another job. I don't know how they're going to manage that. She seems to have stuck her feet in the concrete here by saying, I'm ready to serve. Well, she was the border czar, and that didn't work out. And then they moved her over to the abortion czar, and that just fell off the screen as an issue. Newsom's trying to bring it back now because that's a very big pivotal issue and difference between the Democrat and Republican Party, but not as much as you think. When we saw that whole national agenda emerging and his use of resources, taking away taking him away from California and the terrible situation here, it was too much. And yes, we have to warn other people. Do you want your state to look like California? It was all over the news in New York when he came up with the insurance for illegal immigration. And even the Democrats there were like, dude, what are you doing? You're ruining. Now everybody's going to expect us to do it. And guess what? We don't have the money. So you're creating a problem for us because now all of the people who support that kind of thing are looking at their leadership going, hey, how come he's doing it? We're not doing it here. It's just a terrible example to set. Take care of your citizens that you have. We're in a hell of a spot right now.
So another question that I have for you is, what is your response to people who might just say that this recall effort just creates further division and is unnecessary and a distraction from governing? What would you say to those people who are just questioning the need for another recall and might actually say, this is just politically motivated and a waste of time?
Well, then don't spend time on it. But I'm telling you that a lot of people are spending time on it. And I sort of say that there are doubters and there are doers. And the doubters typically just Monday morning quarterbacks who never do anything anyway. Very few of the people who, well, let me say this in a positive note. Most of the people who were involved last time they're so excited they're out passing around the old petition and we're having to go, wait, it's not until mid-March, please. We'll get it to you within 24 hours of it being, approved. But he hasn't even responded, which, by the way, Kat, is due today. I guarantee you he's not going to do it until like 11:59 p.m. tonight. But trust me, we have to take that language, the governor's response, which, by the way, if you read the last one, it's laughable today. Create stability in our state finances and budget. Well, that didn't happen. Make for a better education for our residents. That didn't happen. We went backwards. I mean, I could go through all that. You don't have time, but trust me, we will. And he is better under a microscope. You may not like how he wants to do it, but he does do it. Now, as far as the doubters, we had that last time all the way down to election day, including the people who wanted to take that spot. That is not our responsibility, but I would very much say that we had that problem last time. We still qualified with 2.3 million signatories. And I just want to add one more thing. First of all, you can all go to our website. It's www.rescuecalifornia.org.com and see what all the reasons are. But we don't have to have as many signatures this time. We need 500,000 less. So it's going to be easier, faster, cheaper. We spent $8 million through the general election. He spent 95 million. We don't have to spend what he spends to keep him accountable and to let the country know that this kind of governance does not work in California, and it really isn't going to work in your state unless you want to look like Los Angeles or San Francisco or San Diego, cities, major economies in the world that have now just fallen down and doesn't look like they'll recover in our lifetime.
Okay, so the timeline here, 1.4 million signatures that you need by May.
Well, they validated that we need 1.3 and change in valid signatures. So you always want to get 125% of that for the buffer and to avoid a long, treacherous count of ballots. So we're going to go for 1.6. And so if you do the math, I've got 500,000 signatures that have been pledged so far by 2,000 people, and I can hardly wait to see what the numbers are today.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for walking me through that. I appreciate your time today.
My pleasure, Kat. Thanks so much for having me on.